Broadcasting from an undisclosed location in Southern California, this is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm just Rogie. The world's first living xenobot is built. A team of scientists has repurposed living cells scraped from frog embryos and assembled them into entirely new life forms. Josh Bongard, computer scientist and robotics expert, explains to Sky News.
And before we actually build any of these xenobots, we start with the supercomputer here in Vermont and ask the AI to put simulated frog skin cells and frog heart muscle cells together in a configuration so that the final simulated biobot does what we want it to do, which in this case was simply to crawl along the bottom of a simulated petri dish as quickly as possible.
Bongard explains, these are novel living machines.
So it's a robot in the sense that it's something that was created by humans, although indirectly through a computer. And the result is, in essence, a machine. It's just a machine that's built from cells rather than a machine built from more traditional components.
What can these robots do?
So at the moment, they don't do much. As I mentioned, the AI designed them to move along the bottom of a petri dish.
When you think of particle accelerators, you generally think of the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. A Stanford University team developed a device that uses lasers to accelerate electrons along etched channels on a silicon chip. The idea for a miniature accelerator has existed since the laser's invention in 1960. Researchers hope their invention can one day be used in applications that don't require massive power, such as security scanners, medical imaging, and treatment devices. 3 generations of ancient Amazon women warriors found in a Russian tomb. For the first time, researchers have uncovered the remains of 4 Amazons with different ages in the same tomb, according to a release by Russia's RAS Institute of Archaeology. Within the tomb located in Russia, they found skeletons of 4 women. Scythians were nomadic tribes of warriors that lived across Siberia between 200 and 900 BC, and Amazons were Scythian warrior women. Their remains align with other previous discoveries to show that Amazons lived among other nomadic tribes in Eastern Europe. Items found with the remains helped researchers to estimate their burial occurred during the 4th century BC. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. Thank you so much for listening.
This is Malorcas 45, fan of the Fringe FM, challenging everyone to open their mind's eye. Listen to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop to gain precision for your third eye vision.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS speed rescue.
Contact, I am in orbit. The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas, this is Lighting the Void, and I am your host, Joe Roop. Welcome. It is Hump Day, Hump Night, January, I think it's the 15th on into the 16th. I didn't even check my calendar. Tonight we had a guest planned. A PD was supposed to be here, the guy that was going to talk to us about entheogens, you know, the Freemason and Rosicrucian guy, but he had to reschedule, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the new segments that we had talked about. We're going to dive between the world of spirit and reality into LIber Novus, and hopefully this time it won't shut the shack down. We won't get attacked or lightning won't strike or anything like that. So this time, I think the only issues that we're having is that we can't get Nightstalker's mic to work right now. So the Reverend Dan Lopez is here with me. The Nightstalker is going to be in here too, and we're going to dive deep into LIber Novus and get into a little weird stuff with that. So this is something I promised you guys we were going to do, so I need audience participation, and I don't need a bunch of text messages right now, please. And once we get audience participation, then we'll keep this going. All right, so that'll be what we're going to do. So I want to thank the show sponsors, GetTheTea.com. Ronnie is doing big stuff over there at GetTheTea.com. Make sure you go take advantage of that. Get 2 bags, get 1 free. Also, AncientLifeOil.com, the only CBD oil worth buying, in my opinion, and the only CBD oil you should be buying. And thank our sponsors. Tell them that we sent you when you go buy the stuff there. Also, Metaphorical Archaeology with Barbara Charlton. Give them a call, 214-995-3754. If you call that number if you've had any type of paranormal trauma that you've experienced that is not going away. It's still in your life. It's still bothering you. It's still causing you trauma. You will get a session for free from her. This is free if it's paranormal related, because she does these services for other things that, whatever caused you post-traumatic stress or any type of trauma in your life, she does them as a service. But if it's a paranormal thing that caused this, then she does them for free. All right. So what we're going to do is get this going pretty quick. The Reverend Dan Lopez is here with me, man. What's going on, buddy?
Hola, amigo. What's going on?
So sometimes, we have guests that can't. Everybody always tells me, they're like, man, you should have like a backup guest. And I mean, that's a good idea. It's a good idea to have that. But at the same time, I mean, I think most stuff happens for a reason. So we should just do what's on our minds right now. You can decide on whether he's really in the spirit world or if it's all in his mind or whatever. And if you have like a thing, like a copy of the Red Book or whatever, like Dan, you've got what, the PDF or something?
Yeah.
You can find the PDF online. I got a copy of it too, but I'm starting where it says, the way of what is to come. If I speak in the spirit of this time, I must say no one and nothing can justify what I must proclaim to you. Justification is superfluous to me, since I have no choice, but I must. I have learned that in addition to the spirit of this time, there is still another spirit at work, namely that which rules the depths of everything contemporary. The spirit of this time would like to hear of use and value. I also thought this way, and my humanity still thinks this way. But that other spirit forces me nevertheless to speak. Beyond justification, use, and meaning. Filled with human pride and blinded by presumptuous spirit of the times, I long sought to hold that other spirit away from me. But I did not consider that the spirit of the depths from time immemorial and for all the future possesses a greater power than the spirit of this time, whose changes with the generations. The spirit of the depths has subjugated all pride and arrogance to the power of judgment. He took away my belief in science. He robbed me of the joy of explaining and ordering things. And he let devotion to the ideals of this time die out in me. He forced me down to the last and simplest things. The spirit of the depths took my understanding and all my knowledge and placed them at the service of the inexplicable and the paradoxical. He robbed me of speech and writing for everything that was not in his service, namely the melting together of sense and nonsense, which produces the supreme meaning. But the supreme meaning is the path, the way, and the bridge to what is to come. That is the God yet to come. It is not the coming God himself, but his image which appears in the supreme meaning. God is an image, and those who worship him must worship him in the image of the supreme meaning. The supreme meaning is not a meaning and not an absurdity. It is an image and a force in one, magnificence and force together. Magnificence and force together. The supreme meaning is the beginning and the end. It is the bridge of going across and fulfillment. The other gods died of their temporality, yet the supreme meaning never dies. It turns into meaning and then into absurdity. And out of the fire and blood of their collision, the supreme meaning rises up rejuvenated anew. This is kind of like reading on acid, right? The image of God.
Do you think he's only talking about? Do you think he's only talking about psychological stuff like this?
No.
This is some high-level fantasy stuff.
Like, I think he really believed
hell yeah, definitely.
in something, but he wouldn't say it out in public, right? So he says, like, the image of God has a shadow. The supreme meaning is real and cast a shadow. For what can we be actual and corporeal and have no shadow? Or how can we be that way without a shadow? The shadow is nonsense. It lacks force and has no continued existence through itself. But nonsense is the inseparable and undying brother of the supreme meaning. Like plants, so men also grow, some in the light and other in shadows. There are many who need the shadows to grow and not the light. This is shadow work, right? So the image of God throws a shadow that is just as great as itself. The supreme meaning is great and small. It is as wide as the space of the starry heaven and as narrow as the cell of the living body. So the spirit of time in me wanted me to recognize the greatness and extent of the supreme meaning, but not its littleness. The spirit of the depths, however, conquered this arrogance, and I had to swallow the small as a means of healing the immortal in me. It completely burned up my innards, since it was inglorious and unheroic. It was even ridiculous and revolting, but the pliers of the spirit of the depths held me, and I had to drink the bitterest of all draughts. The spirit of the time tempted me with the thoughts that all this belongs to the shadowiness of the God image. This would be pernicious deception, since the shadow is nonsense, but the small, narrow, and banal is not nonsense, but one of both of essences of the Godhead. I resisted recognizing that every day belongs to the image of the Godhead. I fled this thought. I hid myself behind the highest and the coldest stars. But the spirit of the depths caught up with me and forced the bitter drink between my lips. The spirit of this time whispered to me, this supreme meaning, this image of God, this melting together of the hot and the cold, that is you and only you. But the spirit of the depths spoke to me, you are an image of the unending world. All that last mysteries of becoming and passing away live in you. All the last mysteries of becoming and passing away live in you. If you did not possess all this, how could you know? For the sake of my human weakness, the spirit of the depths gave me this word. Yet this word is also superfluous, since I do not speak it freely, but because I must. I speak because the spirit robs me of joy and life if I do not speak. I am the serf who brings it and does not know what he carries in his hand. It would burn his hands if he did not place it where his master ordered him to lay it. So it sounds to me like Carl Jung saying that, almost like Crowley did when he wrote the Book of the Law, that he has to write this stuff, like he's forced to. So the spirit of our time spoke to me and said, what dire urgency could be forcing you to speak all this? This was an unlawful temptation. But I wanted to ponder what inner or outer bind could force me into this, and because I found nothing I could grasp, I was near to making one up. But with this, the spirit of our time had almost brought it about, and instead of speaking, I was thinking again about reasons and explanations. But the spirit of the depth spoke to me and said, to understand a thing is a bridge and a possibility of returning to the path, but to explain a matter is arbitrary and sometimes even murder. Have you counted the murders among the scholars? So, yeah, this is trippy, right? So
I feel like what he's saying in that part was like, that kind of seemed like that was more psychological. It was more kind of him saying like the as above, so below, that like he recognizes that he's part of this one Godhead, this supreme being, but in that recognition, he like feels compelled to like put it into words, and then like but he's like he's having this like kind of existential crisis of like, if he's part of this, why put it into words? And then like that's his purpose, and he's kind of like wrestling with that, like what's the purpose if like we're all part of this one thing anyways, like.
Yeah, and he feels forced to do it though. Like he knows he sounds crazy,
exactly.
but he's got to do it. Yeah. But the spirit of this time stepped up to me and laid before me huge volumes which contained all my knowledge. Their pages were made of ore, and a steel stylus had engraved inexorable words in them. And he pointed to these inexorable words and spoke to me, and he said, "What you speak, this is madness. Is it true? It is it is true. It is true. What I speak is the greatness and intoxication and ugliness of madness." But the spirit of the depths stepped up to me and said, "What you speak is, the greatness is, the intoxication is, the undignified, sick, paltry dailiness is. It runs in all the streets, lives in all the houses, and rules the day of all humanity. Even the eternal stars are commonplace. It is the great mistress and the one essence of God. One laughs about it, and laughter, too, is. Do you believe, man of this time, that laughter is lower than worship? Where is your measure, false measurer? Where's your measure, false measurer? The sum of life decides in laughter and in worship, not your judgment. I must also speak the ridiculous. You coming men, you will recognize the supreme meaning by the fact that he is laughter and worship, a bloody laughter and a bloody worship. A sacrificial blood binds the poles. A sacrificial blood binds the poles. Those who know this laugh and worship in the same breath. After this, however, my humanity approached me and said, "What solitude, what coldness of desolation you lay upon me when you speak such things. Reflect on the destruction of being and the streams of blood from the terrible sacrifice that the depths demand." But the spirit, you know what it feels like? It feels like the spirit of the depths is like the devil, and the spirit of the time is, it's like two devils almost. You still with me?
It's like the muses. It's like the it's like the spirit of the time is like. Oh, sorry.
He gets to the devil.
Sorry. Go ahead.
He gets to the devil. He gets to Satan. Just read on.
Yeah. All right. But the spirit of the depth said, "No one can or shall, let's just say, stop sacrifice. Sacrifice is not destruction. Sacrifice is the foundation stone of what is to come. Have you not had monasteries? Have you not countless thousands gone into the desert? You should carry the monastery in yourself. The desert is within you. The desert calls you and draws you back. And if you were fettered to the world of this time with iron, the call of the desert would break all the chains. Truly, I prepare you for solitude." After this, my humanity remained silent. Something happened to my spirit, however, which I must call mercy. My speech is imperfect, not because I want to shine with words, but out of the impossibility of finding those words. I speak in images. With nothing else can I express the words from the depths. The mercy which happened to me gave me belief, hope, and sufficient daring, not to resist further the spirit of the depths, but to utter his word. But before I could pull myself together to really do it, I needed a visible sign that would show me that the spirit of the depths in me was at the same time the ruler of the depths of the world affairs. And it happened in October of the year 1913, as I was leaving alone for a journey, that during the day I was suddenly overcome in broad daylight by a vision. I saw a terrible flood that covered all the northern and low-lying lands between the North Sea and the Alps. It reached from England up to Russia, and from the coast of the North Sea up to the Alps. I saw yellow waves, swimming rubble, and the death of countless of thousands. Now this vision lasted for 2 hours, and it confused me and made me ill. I was not able to interpret it, but 2 weeks passed, then the vision returned, still more violent than before, and an inner voice spoke. "Look at it. It is completely real, and it will come to pass. You cannot doubt this. I wrestled again for 2 hours with this vision, but it held me fast. It left me exhausted and confused, and I thought my mind had gone crazy. From then on, anxiety toward the terrible event that stood directly before us kept coming back, and once I saw a sea of blood over the northern lands. In the year 1914, in the month of June, at the beginning and the end of the month, at the beginning of July, I had the same dream 3 times. I was in a foreign land, and suddenly, overnight, and right in the middle of summer, a terrible cold descended from space. All seas and rivers were locked in ice. Every green living thing had frozen. The second dream was similar to this, but the third dream at the beginning of July went as follows. I was in a remote English land. It was necessary that I return to my homeland with a fast ship as speedily as possible. I reached home quickly. In my homeland, I found that in the middle of summer, a terrible cold had fallen from space, which had turned every living thing into ice. And there stood a leaf-bearing but fruitless tree whose leaves had turned into sweet grapes full of healing juice through the working of the frost. I picked some grapes and gave them to a great waiting throng. In reality, it was so at the time when the Great War broke out between the people of Europe. I found myself in Scotland, compelled by the war to choose the fastest ship and the shortest route home. I encountered the colossal cold that froze everything. I met up with the flood, the sea of blood, and found my barren tree whose leaves the frost had transformed into a remedy, and I plucked the ripe fruit and gave it to you, and I do not know what I poured out of you, what bittersweet, intoxicating drink which left on your tongues an aftertaste of blood. What the hell? Okay. So believe me.
Who's he talking to?
Yeah, right. So believe me, it is no teaching and no instruction that I give you. On what basis should I presume to teach you? I give you news of the way of this man, but not of your own way. My path is not your path, therefore I cannot teach you. The way is within us, but not in God's, nor in teaching, nor in laws, but within us is the way, the truth, and the life. Woe betide those who live by way of examples. Life is not with them. If you live according to an example, you thus live the life of that example. But who should live your own life, if not yourself? So live yourselves. The signposts have fallen. Unblazed trails lie before us. Do not be greedy to gobble up the fruits of foreign fields. Do you not know what you yourselves are, the fertile acre which bears everything that avails you? Yet who today knows this? Who knows the way to the eternally fruitful climes of the soul? You seek the way through mere appearances, and you study books and give ear to all kinds of opinion, but what good is that? There's only one way, and that is your way. You seek the path, and I'll warn you away from my own. It can also be the wrong way for you. May each go his own way. And I will be no savior, no lawgiver, no master teacher unto you. You are no longer little children. Giving laws, bettering, making things easier has all become wrong and evil. May each one seek out his own way. The way leads to mutual love and community. Men will come to see and feel the similarity and commonality of all their ways. Laws and teachings held in common compel people to solitude so that they may escape the pressure of undesirable contact. But solitude makes people hostile and venomous. Therefore give people dignity and let each of them stand apart, so that each may find his own fellowship and love it. Power stands against power, contempt against contempt, and love against love. Give humanity dignity, and trust that life will find a better way. The one eye of the Godhead is blind, the one ear of the Godhead is deaf, and the order of its being is crossed by chaos. So be patient with the crippledness of the world, and do not overvalue its consummate beauty. Do you get anything from that? I don't even know who he's talking to, be honest with you.
Dan?
Who's he talking to, Dan? Or is that spirit talking to him?
I think I get it.
I think he's talking to the reader.
He's talking to me? He's talking to us. Okay. Well, I mean,
I don't know.
Oop. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think you're right. You go ahead, Nightstocker.
You know, it feels like it kind of like went back and forth like he touches on what I think was like an actual mystical experience he had, and then he's like analyzing it from a psychological perspective and like how that actual experience was like in itself an initiatory experience for him. But then also he's having this like overwhelming like sensory experience in this like dreamscape, and it's like almost like he's seeing the total, like that's what he's in, right? He's in a dream, like, so it seems like he's seeing like the totality of everything at once. So like, and he even compares it to like a wave. So if you're like looking at a wave and imagine like time or like everything as the wave, if you experience the wave from the top of the wave, you're surfing. If you experience the wave from the bottom of the wave, you're being crushed down against the ocean floor. And it's like, so he experienced at once the good and all the good and the evil, like encompassed into one. And that's what those two opposing forces were, like the spirit of the time and the spirit of the depths. It was like the yin and the yang, like the under. Does that make sense?
I guess what I'm getting from it is that that spirit is kind of speaking through him and telling everybody that's listening too that the only way you're going to find anything truthful about your soul, spirit, reality, all that stuff, and what you're capable of is going your own way and not by example, not by example of others, not by what you've been taught, not even really morality, but by what's inside you. So to me, when he talks about like the desert and going your own way and solitude and all that stuff, to me, I think he's talking about doing your own work, figuring out who you are. Because if you get into this world of comparisons, then you're in trouble. Like, it's like the first thing it's warning us about here is comparing ourselves to anything or anybody else. That's what I'm getting.
That's good. And I think that's the beauty of it. I think like all these things
just think about it. How much suffering does that cause, right? Like when you start comparing yourself to, you know, in anything, man, whether it's like jobs, your soul, dating, all this other stuff, you know, you can't do that because there's no, like, there's nobody here that's the same.
Exactly. No, you can't do that, but that's what you're programmed to do.
Yeah, and we are programmed to do
I feel like,
it for sure.
Yeah. I feel like that was one of the biggest things that I had to get over, like in my life, was just not comparing my life to the television. You know what I mean? So like as a little kid or as like a 13-year-old kid, feeling a little lonely or whatever, comparing my life to TV and thinking that the things that I'm seeing people my age do on TV are not necessarily like the checklist that I also have to accomplish at the same time. And it takes a long and I see people constantly all day long that are like the source of their grief is that they're comparing themselves to something that they saw in the media or something that they believe that they have to have because that's what they've been told that they have. And it's,
and I have a hard time around that kind of thing too. You know, when people are like, well, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that about me. And I'm like, only you know you. What the hell does anybody know about you? You know?
Nothing.
You know what I mean? So, anyways, it's like we learn about ourselves through friends, relationships, and comparisons, but we don't learn the truth about ourselves. We can't find the truth based on what other people are saying, and we can't compare ourselves and our path to anybody and anything else. And the only way we're going to know what that path is by crossing the abyss, like Jake said, going into the desert, you know? So,
boom, Jay crushing it.
Yep. So this is redefining the soul. When I had the vision of the flood in October of the year in 1913, it happened at a time that was significant for me as a man. At that time, in the 40th year of my life, I had achieved everything that I had wished for myself. I had achieved honor, power, wealth, knowledge, and every human happiness. Then my desire for the increase of these trappings ceased. The desire ebbed me from, and horror came over me. The vision of the flood seized me, and I felt the spirit of the depths, but I did not understand him, yet he drove me on with the unbearable inner longing, and I said, my soul, where are you? Do you hear me? I speak, I call, are you there? I have returned, and I am here again. I have shaken the dust of all the lands from my feet, and I have come to you. I am with you. and after long years of long wandering, I have come to you again. Should I tell you everything I have seen, experienced, and drunk in? Or do you not want to hear about all of the noise of life in the world? So apparently he's talking to his soul as a separate thing that doesn't even know what happened, okay? But one thing you must know, the one thing I have learned is that one must live this life. This life is the way, the long sought-after way to the unfathomable, which we call divine. There is no other way. All other ways are false paths. I found the right way. It led me to you, to my soul. I returned, tempered and purified. But do you still know me? How long the separation lasted? Everything has become so different, and how did I find you? How strange my journey was. What words should I use to tell you on what twisted paths the good star has guided me to you? Give me your hand, my almost forgotten soul. How warm the joy at seeing you again, you long disavowed soul. Life has led me back to you. Let us thank the life I have lived for all the happy and all the sad hours, for every joy and for every sadness. My soul, my journey should continue with you. I will wander with you and ascend to my solitude. I wonder, it should say like descend to my solitude. Man. But the spirit of the depths forced me to say this, and at the same time undergo it again myself, since I had not expected it then. I still labored misguidedly under the spirit of this time, and thought differently about the human soul. I thought and spoke much of the soul. I knew many learned words for her. I had judged her and turned her into a scientific object. I did not consider that my soul cannot be the object of my judgment and knowledge. Much more are my judgment and knowledge the objects of my soul. Therefore the spirit of the depths forced me to speak to my soul, to call upon her as living and self-existing, as a living and self-existing being. And I had to become aware that I had lost my soul. From this we learn how the spirit of the depths considers the soul. He sees her as living and self-existing being. And with this he contradicts the spirit of this time, for whom the soul is a thing dependent on man, which lets herself be judged and arranged, and whose circumference we can grasp. But I had to accept that what I had previously called my soul was not my soul at all, but a dead system. And hence I had to speak to my soul as to something far off and unknown, which did not exist through me, but through whom I existed. He who desire turns away from outer things reaches the place of the soul. If he does not find the soul, the horror of the emptiness will overcome him, and the fear will drive him with a wisp lashing time, and again in a desperate endeavor and a blind desire for the hollow things of this world. He becomes a fool through his endless desire and forgets the way of his soul, never to find her again. He will run after all things and will seize hold of them, but he will not find his soul, since he would find her only in himself. Truly his soul lies in things and men, but the blind one seizes things in men, yet not his soul in the things in men. He has no knowledge of his soul. How could he tell her apart from things and men? He could find his soul in desire itself, but not in the objects of desire. If he possessed his desire, and his desire did not possess him, he would lay a hand on his soul. But since his desire in this image and expression of his soul, if we possess the image of a thing, we possess half that thing. The image of the world is half the world. He who possesses the world, but not its image, possesses only half the world. Huh. Odd.
Yeah, so I think what he's saying is that, like, we're all part of the one, but that doesn't make your individual incarnation.
Whoa, where'd you go?
Like,
Did you
I
go into the
briefly...
depths? Oh, there you are. Hold on a second. Let me finish here. Okay. Since his soul, is poor and has nothing. The wealth of the soul exists. Okay, here we go. The wealth of the soul exists in images. He who possesses the image of the world possesses half the world, even if his humanity is poor and owns nothing. But hunger makes the soul into a beast that devours the unbearable and is poisoned by it. My friends, it is wise to nourish the soul, otherwise you will breed dragons and devils in your heart. Ooh. Pretty interesting. Now, what do you think, Nightstalker? Tell me now. Tell me now.
This is some wild stuff. I'm just trying to. I don't know. I'm really going in this with no experience at all. So there's probably people listening being like,
"Who cares?
You have no idea what you're talking about at all."
Yeah, who cares what they think?
I'm having fun. Yeah.
So, like, we're going on this journey together. So, what is Craven saying? The Greek word for soul is psyche. So I would assume Jung is using the word in that context. Could be. Yeah. We got to take a sponsor break, though. We'll be right back. We're going to keep going into the Red Book, where we talk about the souls and God, and then we're going to go into the desert. Eventually, I think Jung gets to the red one, then to hell and back. I hope you're going to be okay with this journey. We'll be right back. Don't get scared. No.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast. Need another late night fix? You can tune in every weeknight to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is David Oman with HouseAtTheEndOfTheDrive.com. You're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
I like to listen to Lighting the Void because of the guests, the content, and the host, Joe Roop. He's smart, he's intelligent, and he seems to ask the questions that we all have on our mind. We're all searching for the truth, and Joe helps us get closer to it. I love this show. I love this show. I love this show. Lighting the Void.
What's up, Joe? Hey, man, I just wanted to say your show, dude, keeps getting better and better and better. I love Lighting the Void and The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hey, this check is wrong. I worked a holiday and 7 hours of overtime. Not getting paid correctly is a real pain. It could also hurt our boss if our company provides out-of-compliance checks. That's right, construction companies doing business with the government can get fined, or officials of the companies can go to jail if the checks aren't right. It's a law. The Davis-Bacon Act has 30 compliance issues for every check, but there is an easy way for construction companies to be in compliance. EMARS offers Compliant Client, a web-based system that finds and corrects all 30 of the possible out-of-compliance check issues. Users of Compliant Client report an 80% savings in time and money. Running a weekly payroll usually takes about 5 minutes. All 15,000 plus clients of EMARS have never had a legal compliance issue. Plus, they sleep better on check day. Contact EMARS at emarsinc.com or call 480-595-0466.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Alex X. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void, and tonight we're definitely going into the void, into the psyche of Carl Jung in the Red Book. I think we're figuring out the soul. Soon we'll get to the desert, then we'll probably get to the depths of hell. Wherever this is leading us, I don't know. Dan knows. But he's here with us, the Reverend Dan Lopez, also the Nightstocker, and we are talking during the break about desire. You know, how you kept bringing up desire. And I said, you know, that like I confide a lot of things in Dan about that. And if you really think about it, like desire kind of rips us apart if we let it take control of us. And, you know, it does, like it takes over everything, you know, and it's funny too, because in Freemasonry, they tell you that, like they even draw a circle and they say like, you know, desire is something that you have to be in control of, not, or it becomes your enemy. Right. And when I say desire, I mean, that doesn't just mean like love and sex. That means anything, you know.
It's like hunger.
Yeah, anything takes over you. So we talked about more than that. All the good stuff happens during the breaks, doesn't it? So I'm gonna have to start recording that stuff like the other guy said the other night.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. All right. So we're at the soul and God, and Carl Jung says, on the second night, I called out to my soul. I'm weary, my soul. My wandering has lasted too long. My search for myself outside of myself. Now I have gone through events and find you behind all of them, for I made discoveries on my erring through events, humanity, and the world. I found men, and you, my soul, I found again. First in images within men, and then you yourself. I found you where I least expected you, and you climbed out of a dark shaft. You announced yourself to me in advance in dreams. They burned in my heart and drove me to all the boldest acts of daring, and forced me to rise above myself. You let me see truths of which I had no previous inkling. You let me undertake journeys whose endless lengths have scarred me. If the knowledge of them had not been secure in you. I wandered for many years so long that I forgot that I possessed a soul. Where were you in all this time? Which beyond sheltered you and gave you sanctuary? Oh, that you must speak through me, that my speech and I are your symbol and expression. How should I decipher you? Who are you, child? My dreams have represented you as a child and as a maiden. I'm ignorant of your mystery. Forgive me if I speak as in a dream, like a drunkard. Are you God? Is God a child, a maiden? Forgive me if I babble. No one else hears me, but I speak to you quietly. And you know that I am neither a drunkard nor someone that's deranged, and that my heart twists in pain from the wound, whose darkness delivers speeches full of mockery. You are lying to yourself. You spoke so as to deceive others and to make them believe in you. You want to be a prophet and chase after your ambition. The wound still bleeds, and I am far from being able to pretend that I do not hear the mockery. Sounds like he's getting angry, right? He's getting a little angry because he wants to find out the truth. How strange it sounds to me to call you a child, you who still hold all without end in your hand. And I went on the way of the day, and you went invisibly with me, putting the pieces together meaningfully and letting me see the whole in each part. Holy hell. That was weird. I just saw one of those things move out of the corner of my eye again. Made my heart speed. You know what I'm talking about? Like never mind. Anyways,
The shadows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You took away where I thought to take hold, and you gave me where I did not expect anything, and time again you brought out fate from new and unexpected quarters. Where I sowed you, robbed me of the harvest. And where I did not sow, you give me fruit and 100-fold. So he's saying, like, what are you doing to me? Every time I try to do something really hard, you take it away from me. And when I don't try at all, you just give it to me. It doesn't make sense. And time again, I lost the path and found it again where I would never have foreseen it. You upheld my belief when I was alone and near despair, and at every decisive moment, you let me believe in myself. Like a tired wanderer who had sought nothing in the world apart from her, shall I come closer to my soul. I shall learn that my soul finally lies behind everything, and if I cross the world, I am ultimately doing this only to find my soul. And even the dearest are themselves not the goal and the end of the love that goes on seeking. They are symbols of their own souls. My friends, do you guess to what solitude we ascend? I must learn that the dregs of my thought, my dreams, are the speech of my soul. I must carry them in my heart and go back and forth over them in my mind. Like the words of the person dearest to me, dreams are the guiding words of the soul. Why should I henceforth not love my dreams and not make their riddlings images into objects of my daily consideration? You think that the dream is foolish and ungainly. What is beautiful? What is ungainly? What is clever and what is foolish? The spirit of this time is your measure, but the spirit of the depths surpass it at both ends. Only the spirits of this time knows the difference between large and small, but the difference is invalid, like the spirit which recognizes it. The spirit of the depths even taught me to consider my action and my decision as dependent on dreams. Dreams pave the way for life, and they determine you without you understanding their language. One would like to learn this language, but who can teach and learn it? Scholarliness alone is not enough. There is a knowledge of the heart that gives deeper insight. The knowledge of the heart is in no book and is not to be found in the mouth of any teacher, but grows out of you like the green seed from the dark earth. Scholarliness belongs to the spirit of this time. It's a worldly thing, I'm guessing. But this spirit is no way grasp the dream. Since the soul is everywhere, that scholarly knowledge is not. But how can I attain the knowledge of the heart? You can attain this knowledge only by living your life to the full. You live your life fully if you also live what you have never yet lived, but have left for others to live or to think. You will say, quote, but I cannot live or think everything that others live or think. But you should say, quote, the life that I could still live, I should live, and the thoughts that I could still think, I should think. It appears as though you want to flee from yourself as not to have to live with what remains unlived until now. But you cannot flee from yourself. It is with you all the time and demands fulfillment. And if you pretend to be blind and dumb to this demand, you feign being blind and deaf to yourself, and this way you will never reach the knowledge of the heart. The knowledge of your heart is how your heart is. From a cunning heart you will know cunning. From a good heart you will know goodness. So that your understandings become perfect, consider that your heart is both good and evil. You ask, what? Should I also live evil? The spirit of the depths demands the life that you could still live, you should live. Ooh, that's a little controversial, right? That's kind of like Crowley saying, do what thou wilt, right? Well-being decides not your well-being, not the well-being of others, but only just well-being. Well-being is between me and others and society. I too lived which I had not done before, and which I could still do. I lived into the depths, and the depths began to speak. The depths taught me the other truth. It's thus united sense and nonsense in me. I had to recognize that I'm only the expression and symbol of the soul. In the sense of the spirit of the depths, I am as I am in this visible world, a symbol of my soul. And I am thoroughly a serf, completely subjugated, utterly obedient. The spirit of the depths taught me to say, I am the servant of a child. Through this dictum I learn above all most extreme humility as what I most need. The spirit of this time, of course, allowed me to believe in my reason. He let me see myself in the image of a leader with ripe thoughts, but the spirit of the depths teaches me that I am a servant. In fact, the servant of a child. This dictum was repugnant to me, and I hated it. But I had to recognize and accept that my soul is a child, and that my God in my soul is a child. If you are boys, this is trippy. Listen to this. If you are boys, your God is a woman. If you are a woman, your God is a boy. If you are men, your God is a maiden. The God is where you are not. So, it is wise that one has a God. This serves for your protection. A maiden is the pregnant future. A boy is the endearing future. A woman is having given birth. And a man is having, what is that? Engendered. I think. Yeah. So if you are childlike beings now, your God will descend from the height of ripeness to age and death. But if you are developed beings, having engendered or given birth in body or in soul, so your God rises from the radiant cradle to the incalculable height of the future, to the maturity and fullness of the coming time. He who still has his life before him is a child. He who lives life in the present is developed. If you thus live all that you can live, you are developed. He who is a child in this time, his God dies. He who is developed in this time, his God continues to live. The spirit of the depths teaches this mystery. Prosperous and woeful are those whose God is developed. Prosperous and woeful are those whose God is a child. What is better, that man has life ahead of him, or that God does? That one confuses me a little. I know no answer. Live the unavoidable decides. The spirit of the depths taught me that my life is encompassed by the divine child, and from his hand everything unexpected came to me, everything living. This child is what I feel as an eternally springing youth in me. In childish men you feel the hopeless transience. All that you saw passing is yet to come for him. His future is full of transience. But the transience of things coming toward you has never yet experienced a human meaning. Your continuing to live is a living onward. Your engender and give birth to what is to come. You are fecund. You live onward. The childish is unfruitful. And what is to come to him is what already has been engendered and already withered. It does not live onward. My God is a child, so wonder not that the spirit of this time in me is incended to mockery and scorn. There will be no one who will laugh at me as I laughed at myself. Your God should not be a man of mockery, rather yourself will be the man of mockery. You should mock yourself and rise above this. If you have still not learned this from the old holy books, then go there, drink the blood, and eat the flesh of him who was mocked and tormented for the sake of our sins, so that you totally become his nature. Deny his being apart from you, and you should be he himself. Not Christians, but Christ. Otherwise you will be of no use to the coming God. Is there anyone among you who believes he can be spared this way? Can he swindle his way past the pain of Christ? I say, such a one deceives himself to his own detriment. He beds down on thorns and fire, so no one can be spared the way of Christ, since this way leads to what is to come. You shall all become Christs. You do not overcome the old teachings through doing less, but through doing more. And every step closer to my soul excites the scornful laughter of my devils, those cowardly ear whisperers and poison mixers. It was easy for them to laugh since I had to do strange things. That's how it ends. That's how that one ends. It was easy for them to laugh since I had to do strange things.
I just have no context for his life. Like, I don't know what he did on a day-to-day basis. So I'm like trying to analyze every sentence, but I don't know.
I mean, he's just a psychologist, and what he decided to do was like...
Yeah, but was he like a creep, though? I'm a conspiracy theorist, so he's talking about how your God should be this little kid, and it's like, I don't know.
It's like metaphor. It's like symbols, man, you know?
No, I know, but I feel like there's like it's very layered, I think, and there's a lot going on.
It's layered above what it actually means. Yeah. Like, so, I mean, he's not saying that he worships like a child in the material world.
No, I know that. Yeah. I think he's saying like whatever needs to be filled, the universe will fill it for you. Like whatever you're lacking will be given to you by the Godhead or whatever.
Think about it this way.
If you're young,
when you came into this world like a baby, right? You were innocent. You were pure. You were your soul. Curious as to what the hell's going on. You don't know nothing. And over time, the only reason why you know what you know, speak what you speak, and do what you do is because the world or the spirit of the time has taught you these things. But the spirit of the depths was there when you were born. If that makes any sense. Like you've lost your soul, is what he's saying, because you focus on the world too much instead of going within. And within you is that child that was born, basically, which is what Christ tried to tell people, that's how you enter heaven, is as a child. Like, I think I'm understanding what he's saying, a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think he worships children. Like, he's not like a pedophile or something.
No.
That's what you're saying. No. So.
But I mean, I wouldn't. That theory is probably out there somewhere on the internet.
No, that Carl Jung was a pedophile?
Thinking.
No, man.
So it's tough to find. It's tough. Like everybody is nowadays.
Dan, you're awfully quiet throughout this, though. You know what? Let's see. Now we got one more before he goes into the desert here. So this is what the way you need to look at this thing, right? So like the red book, you could say if there was a book about the hermit card, right? If you take the hermit card in tarot, then the red book would probably be that book, right? So, on the service of the soul. On the following night, I had to write down all the dreams that I could recollect, true to their wording. The meaning of this act was dark to me, but why all this? Forgive the fuss that rises in me. Yet you want me to do this. What strange things are happening to me? I know too much not to see on what swaying bridges I go. And where are you leading me? Forgive my excessive apprehension or brimful of knowledge, but my foot hesitates to follow you into what mist and darkness does your path lead? I mean, must I also learn to do without meaning? In other words, he knows he's about to go somewhere and none of it means anything, and why go there? Like I think he's getting afraid of it. If this is what you demand, then so be it, but this hour belongs to you. This hour belongs to you, okay? What is there where there is no meaning? Only nonsense or madness. It seems to me it's madness. Is there also a supreme meaning? Is that your meaning, my soul? I limp after you on crutches of understanding. I'm just a man, and you stride like a god. What torture! I must return to myself, to my smallest things. I saw the things of my soul as small, pitiably small, and you force me to see them as large, to make them large. Is it your aim? I follow, but it terrifies me. Hear my doubts, otherwise I cannot follow. So Jung speaking to a soul again in fear. I cannot follow since your meaning is a supreme meaning and your steps are the steps of a god. I understand. I must not think either. Should thought too no longer be? In other words, he's saying, so you want me to follow you, but nothing makes sense. Do you not want me to think? What are we doing here? So I should give myself completely into your hands. But who are you? I don't trust you. Not once to trust is that my love for you, my joy in you. Do I not trust every valiant man, and not you, my soul? Your hand lies heavy on me, but I will. Have I not sought to love men and trust them, and should I not do this with you? Forget my doubts. In other words, he's feeling sorry for his doubts now. I know it is ignoble to doubt you, but you know how difficult it is for me to set aside the beggar's pride I take in my own thought. I forgot that you are also one of my friends and have the first right to my trust. Should what I give them not belong to you as well? I recognize my injustice. It seems to me that I despised you. My joy at finding you again was not genuine. I also recognize that the scornful laughter in me was right. I must learn to love you. And should I also set aside self-judgment, though? I'm afraid. Then the soul spoke to me and said, this fear testifies against me. It is true. It testifies against you. It kills the holy trust between you and me. How hard is fate? If you take a step toward your soul, you will at first miss the meaning. You will believe that you have sunk into meaninglessness, into eternal disorder, and you will be right. Nothing will deliver you from disorder and meaninglessness. I don't know why I can't say that. Meaninglessness, since this is the other half of the world. Your God is a child. So long as you are not childlike, okay, your God is a child so long as you're not childlike. It is the child order, meaning, or disorder, caprice. Disorder and meaninglessness are the mother of order and meaning. Order and meaning are things that have become and are no longer becoming. And you open the gates of the soul to let the dark flood of chaos flow into your order and meaning. If you marry the ordered to the chaos, you produce the divine child, the supreme meaning beyond meaning and meaninglessness. You are afraid to open that door. I was too afraid, since we had forgotten that God is terrible. Christ taught that God is love, but you should know that love is also terrible. I spoke to a living soul, and everybody knows that, duh. So it says, I spoke to a loving soul, and as I drew near to her, I was overcome by horror, and I heaped up a wall of doubt, and did not anticipate that I thus wanted to protect myself from my fearful soul. You dread the depths, and it should horrify you, since the way of what is to come leads through it. You must endure the temptation of fear and doubt, and at the same time acknowledge to the bone that your fear is justified and your doubt is reasonable. How otherwise could it be a true temptation and a true overcoming? Christ totally overcomes the temptation of the devil, but not temptation of God to good and a reason. Christ thus succumbs to cursing. You still have to learn this, to succumb to no temptation, but to do everything of your own will. Then you will be free and beyond Christianity. This still sounds like Crowley to me, right?
No.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, well, look. I mean, if you've read
That last part did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you read Crowley's Book of the Law, it talks about, it doesn't say moving beyond Christianity like this. It says it in a more profound way. Like, I pluck out the eyes of Christianity. Love is the law, but the will is all, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. But it kind of sounded like a lot. It kind of sounded like a McKenna too, with the order into chaos. That's how McKenna describes the transcendental moment at the end of time. It's like when ultimate chaos meets perfect harmony. That's like the singularity. And
did you ever watch that show, Strange Angel? Did you ever watch that?
No. I know what it is. I haven't seen it though. I didn't
that
have
was a good
that
show,
app.
man. They had dudes in there's like,
yeah,
I'm crossing the abyss, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He sets himself on fire. It's like,
yeah,
you gotta be
watch
careful
it,
with this stuff, and you don't go crazy, man. Let's see. I have to recognize that I must submit to what I fear. Yes, even more that I must even love what horrifies me. We must learn such from the saint who was disgusted by the plague infections, and she drank the pus of plague boils and became aware that it smelled like roses. The acts of the saint were not in vain. In everything regarding your salvation, the attainment of mercy, you are dependent on your soul. Thus no sacrifice can be too great for you. If your virtues hinder you from salvation, discard them, since they have become evil to you. The slave to virtue finds the way as little as the slave to vices. If you believe that you are the master of your soul, then become her servant. If you are her servant, make yourself her master, since she needs to be ruled. These should be your first steps. And during 6 further nights, the spirit of the depths was silent in me, and didn't speak anymore, since I swayed between fear, defiance, and nausea, and was wholly the prey of my passion. I could not and did not want to listen to the depths. But on the 7th night, the spirit of the depths spoke to me. Look into your depths, pray to your depths, and waken the dead. But I stood helpless and did not know what I could do. I looked into myself, and the only thing I found within was the memory of earlier dreams. all of which I wrote down without knowing what good this would do. I wanted to throw everything away and return to the light of day, but the Spirit stopped me and forced me back into myself. And the next place that he goes is entitled The Desert.
The Desert.
On the sixth night.
Dun, dun.
Yeah. Be right back.
Joseph Roop is your host. Pull back the blinds and uncover the truth. This is Lighting the Void Radio.
You're listening to The Fringe FM.
Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal, there's a show called Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Hear me live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBoard, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Roop and his show, Lighting the Void.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you're interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Listen, I want to tell you about G.I. Joy from GetTheTea.com. It's the best alchemical concoction of goodies for your stomach and digestive system I can recommend, and that's all based on my experience. Packed with colostrum, acidophilus, aloe, peppermint, and turmeric. If you do your own research, then you know this is the bee's knees for the stomach and digestion. Now, due to Big Brother's ears and the eye in the sky, you know I can't go into the details about what it helped me with. All I can say is I got relief. It's non-GMO, no fillers, no preservatives, manufactured right here in the US of A, and delivered to you by the only people who stay on top of the game and are out in front. Go grab a bottle of G.I. Joy at GetTheTea.com and see what all the fuss is about. Again, that's GetTheTea.com. Have you suffered in silence or experienced stress from a paranormal experience? Even if it happened 20 years ago, when thinking or talking about it today still makes you feel sick to your stomach or makes your heart beat faster, or you suddenly can't breathe. Maybe you even feel those old familiar signs of a panic attack trying to reach the surface. You could have unprocessed emotional responses. Those reactions of terror and trauma are no different than living through a horrible assault, childhood abuse, or a terrible car accident. It can be nearly impossible to find help. The very instant of seeing a ghost or encountering a cryptid could be clinically described as seeing or hearing things that aren't there. You could be considered psychotic, or at best, you're just not taken seriously. Out of a growing mountain of research, the National Institute for Integrative Healthcare showed that 8 out of 10 veterans who completed just 6 one-hour EFT sessions no longer tested positive for PTSD. If you've had paranormal trauma, you can contact Metaphorical Archaeology by calling 214-995-3754. Again, that's 214-995-3754 for a discreet consultation.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on the Fringe FM.
Right, me old Chiners. I know it's an ad break, but before you lot shoot off and make yourself a cup of Rosie Lee or whatever else it is you're going to sling down your Gregory Peck, you need to listen to me babble. If, like me, you found your way to Lighting the Void via a downloadable podcast, you might want to take a butcher's at the Fringe FM Wind and Kite. You won't Adam and Eve how many other shows there are or what they rabbit on about. Ancient history, conspiracy, the consciousness, the esoteric, the occult, metaphysics, parapolitical, ufology, technology, and spirituality, to name but a few. They got featured hosts like Ryan Gable, Jeremy Scott, Alex Exum, Tim Doyle, Cortana and Gigi, Susanna Ross, the Reverend John Polk, Michael Deacon, and J.D. Lewis. You might find yourself listening to the thoughts and theories of the author of the fish you just finished reading. Or you could pick up the dog and bone, call in and tell everyone your own beliefs or experiences. So do me a favour, before you put on the Ansel or crack open a bottle of vino or roll a joint, Go to your Fringe FM and see what you're missing.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
I guess if you want to comment on this, you can call in at 1-800-588-0335. This isn't like, so this is, I guess, what we do when guests cancel, and then every now and then we're going to go through these books. I know that the Red Book is kind of hardcore, to start with, but I didn't want to start with like Curious George or the Cat in the Hat, I wanted to get down to it. So the Reverend Dan Lopez is here with me, as well as the Nightstocker, and we have been going through Carl Jung's Red Book, and we are currently at the desert. Before we go into the desert with Carl Jung, does anybody have anything they want to say, ask, before we do this? Talk about, discuss. No?
I'm pretty enthralled. We're being quiet, but I'm honestly really thinking deeply about this stuff. This is cool. This is something I probably would not have got around to reading on my own. So I'm really glad we're doing this.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Oh hell, I lost my spot. It's a little bit not like conspiracy theory. It's more about finding the soul and the psyche and
I like it.
What is spirit? What's not? What's divine and what's not? And you got to do some shadow work to find out that stuff, I think. So here we go.
Yeah.
On the sixth night, my soul leads me into the desert and into the desert of my own self. I did not think that my soul is a desert, a barren, hot desert, dusty and without drink. But the journey leads through hot sand, slowly waiting without a visible goal to hope for. And how eerie is this wasteland? It seems to me that the way leads so far away from mankind. I take my way step by step and do not know how long my journey will last. Why is myself a desert? And have I lived too much outside of myself and men and events? Why did I avoid myself? Was I not dear to myself? But I have avoided the place of my soul. I was my thoughts after. I was no longer events and other men, but I was not myself, confronted with my thoughts. I should also rise up above my thoughts to my own self, and my journey goes there, and that is why it leads me away from men and events into solitude, and it is solitude to be with oneself, right? But solitude is truly only when the self is a desert. Should I also make a garden out of the desert? And should I people a desolate land? Or should I open the airy magic garden of the wilderness? And what leads me into the desert? And what am I to do there? Is it a deception that I can no longer trust my thoughts? Only life is true, and only life leads me into the desert, but truly not my thinking. That would like to return to thoughts, to men and events, and since it feels uncanny in the desert. My soul, what I am to do there, I don't know, but my soul spoke to me and said, wait. I heard the cruel word, torment belongs to the desert. Through giving my soul all I could give, I came to this place of the soul and found that this place was a hot desert, desolate and unfruitful. No culture of the mind is enough to make a garden out of your soul. I had cultivated my spirit, the spirit of this time in me, but not the spirit of the depths that turns to the things of the soul, the world of the soul. The soul has its own peculiar world. Only the self enters in there, or the man who has completely become his self, and he who is neither in events nor in men nor in his thoughts. But through the turning of my desire from things and men, I turned myself away from things and men. But that is precisely how I became the secure prey of my thoughts. Yes, I wholly became my thoughts. I also had to detach myself from my thoughts through turning my desire away from them, and at once I noticed that myself became a desert, where only the sun of unquiet desire burned. I was overwhelmed by the endless infertility of this desert. Even if something could have thrived there, the creative power of desire was still absent. Wherever the creative power of desire is, there springs the soil's own seed. But do not forget to wait. Did you not see that when your creative force turned to the world, how the dead things moved under it and through it, and how they grew and prospered, and how your thoughts flowed in rich rivers? If your creative force now turns to the place of the soul, you will see how your soul becomes green and how its field bears fruit. And nobody can spare themselves the waiting, and most will be unable to bear this torment, but will throw themselves with greed back at men, things, and thoughts, whose slaves they will become from then on. And since then it will have been clearly proved that this man is incapable of enduring beyond things, men, and thoughts, and they will hence become his master, and he will become their fool. And since he cannot be without them, not until even his soul has become a fruitful field. Also, he whose soul is a garden needs things, men, and thoughts, but he is their friend and not their slave and fool. Everything to come was already in images. To find their soul, the ancients went into the desert. This is an image. The ancients lived their symbols, since the world had not yet become real for them. Thus they went into solitude of the desert to teach us that the place of the soul is a lonely desert. There they found the abundance of visions, the fruits of the desert, the wondrous flowers of the soul. Think diligently about the images that the ancients have left behind. They show the way of what is to come. Look back at the collapse of empires, of growth and death, of the desert and monasteries. They are the images of what is to come. Everything has been foretold, but who knows how to interpret it? When you say that the place of the soul is not, then it's not. But if you say that it is, then it is. Notice what the ancients said in images. The word is a creative act. In the beginning, the word was God, and da-da-da-da. The ancients said in the beginning the word was the word. Consider this and think upon it. The words that oscillate between nonsense and supreme meaning are the oldest and truest. Okay.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, well, I mean,
what was this?
I think I think he knows that he has to go into the desert, right? In other words, like, when like Christ says he went to the desert 40 days and 40 nights, and all that means is going into solitude. That's all it means, and just contemplating, basically, or meditating.
He was saying that. Yeah, I think he was saying that sometimes, but then I feel like at other times he would say to not be a barren desert, and to like, there's good aspects to having a garden. Like there's a lot of garden stuff too.
I like the damn pictures
kind of going back and forth.
In the chat rooms, by the way. You guys are fun.
I gotta look at it.
The voice of my... Okay, here we go. Experiences in the desert. And after a hard struggle, I've come a piece of the way nearer to you. How hard the struggle was, I had fallen into an undergrowth of doubt, confusion, and scorn, and I recognized that I must be alone with my soul. I come with empty hands to you, my soul. What do you want to hear? But my soul spoke to me and said, if you come to a friend, do you come to take? I knew that this should not be so, but it seems to me that I am poor and empty. I would like to sit down, near you at least, and feel the breath of your animating presence. His soul's taunting him, man. Like, he's like, hey, I'm here, soul. What do you want me to do? And he's like, dude, if you go to a friend, do you always want something from him? Soul's being an asshole to him a little bit. My way is hot sand all day long, sandy, dusty paths. My patience is sometimes weak, and once I despaired of myself, as you know, and my soul answered and said, you speak to me as if you were a child complaining to its mother. I am not your mother. I do not want to complain, but let me say to you that mine is a long and dusty road. You are to me like a shady tree in the wilderness. I would like to enjoy your shade, but my soul answered and said, you're pleasure seeking. Where's your patience? Your time has not yet run its course. Have you forgotten why you went into the desert? Well, my faith is weak. My face is blind from all that shimmering blaze of the desert sun, and the heat lies on me like lead. Thirst torments me. I dare not think how unendingly long my way is, and above all, I see nothing in front of me. But the soul answered, You speak as if you still learn nothing. Can you not wait? Should everything fall into your lap ripe and finished? You are full, yes, you teem with intentions and desirousness. Do you still not know that the way to truth stands open only to those without intentions? I know that everything you say, O my soul, is also my thought, but I hardly live according to it. The soul said, Well, how? Tell me, do you then believe that your thoughts should help you? I would always like to refer to the fact that I'm a human being, just as, now he's like, come on, man, I'm just human here. You know, just a human being who is weak and sometimes does not do his best. But the soul said, Is this what you think it means to be human? You are hard, my soul, but you are right. How little we still commit ourselves to living. We should grow like a tree that likewise does not know its law. We tie ourselves up with intentions, not mindful of the fact that intention is limitation, yes, the exclusion of life. We believe that we can illuminate the darkness with an intention, and in that way aim past the light. How can we presume to want to know in advance from where the light will come to us? Let me bring only one complaint before you. I suffer from scorn, my own scorn, but my soul said to me, Do you think little of yourself? I do not believe so, my soul answered. Then listen, do you think little of me? Do you still not know what you are not writing a book to feed? Okay, do you still not know that you are not writing a book to feed your vanity, but you are speaking with me? How can you suffer from scorn if you address me with those words that I give you? Do you know then who I am? Have you grasped me, defined me, and made me into a dead formula? Have you measured the depths of my chasms and explored all the ways down which I'm yet going to lead you? Scorn cannot challenge you if you are not vain to the marrow of your bones. And then Jung says to his soul, Your truth is hard. I want to lay down my vanity before you, since it blinds me. See, that is why I believed my hands were empty when I came to you today. I did not consider that it is you who fills empty hands, if only they want to stretch out, yet they do not want to. I did not know that I am your vessel, empty without you, but brimming over with you. This was my 25th night in the desert. This is how long it took my soul to awaken from a shadowy being to her own life, until she could approach me as a free-standing being separate from me. Now, look, I think if you spend 25 nights in a hot desert, you're going to start to trip a little anyways, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But, and I received hard but salutary words from her, and I needed that taking in hand since I could not overcome the scorn within me. The spirit of this time considers itself extremely clever, like every such spirit of the time, but wisdom is simple-minded, not just simple. Because of this, the clever person mocks wisdom, since mockery is his weapon. He uses the pointed, poisonous weapon because he is struck by naive wisdom. If he were not struck, he would not need the weapon. Only in the desert do we become aware of our terrible simple-mindedness, but we are afraid of admitting it. That is why we are scornful, but mockery does not attain simple-mindedness. The mockery falls on the mocker, and in the desert, where no one hears and answers, he suffocates from his own scorn. The cleverer you are, the more foolish your simple-mindedness. The totally clever are total fools in their simple-mindedness. We cannot save ourselves from the cleverness of the spirit of this time through increasing our cleverness, but through accepting what our cleverness hates most, namely simple-mindedness. Yet we also do not want to be artificial fools because we have fallen into simple-mindedness. Rather, we will be clever fools. That leads to supreme meaning. Cleverness couples itself with intention, and simple-mindedness knows no intention. And cleverness conquers the world, but simple-mindedness conquers the soul. So to take on the vow of poverty of spirit in order to partake of the soul. Against this, the scorn of my cleverness rose up, Many will laugh at my foolishness, but no one will laugh more than I laughed at myself. So I overcame my scorn, but when I had overcome it, I was nearer to my soul, and she could speak to me, and I was soon to see the desert becoming green. So I guess he didn't go crazy, and he saw his soul, right? Now he's finally speaking to it. I
feel like I'm going crazy, though.
Do you?
That was just a... yeah, right?
That
was kind of hard to understand, wasn't it? Like, that last part? Like,
no.
The last kind of
really.
segment? What did it mean to you guys? Like, what did you guys get out of that?
Like, well, which part do you not understand?
Well, the last, 20 minutes. Like, the whole,
So,
I feel like you just, going...
like all of it, right?
I'm serious. I'm listening intently, and I just, I'm
you
not
gotta
really
be able
getting
to,
that
you
much
gotta
out
be
of it.
able to, read, through the actual meanings of the words and see, take everything into context. In other words, what he's saying is you may be a clever individual and think you're something special, but if you go soul searching, you got to go into the desert. And when you go into the desert and you don't have no food, clothing, nothing, it's like you have no desires. You have to deal with your desires first. And then after a while, you start going crazy, and then you start scorning and making fun of yourself. And then you realize that as a human, you just really need some simple-minded things. So it shows you, you're also simple-minded and clever, but you're not either or. And there's all kinds of stuff. There's so much stuff here to learn. Like when you go in the desert, it's principles.
And the principle of being. Yeah, the principle of being. A lot of it is symbology and stuff like that, and euphemisms. But they just lead you. It's really like an argument with yourself it's telling you the basic
that's what it seemed like.
Like, you try to be more clever. You want to be, you want to not be thought the fool, and have intentions and stuff like that. And a lot of times it's really just all about emptying yourself. So if I can empty myself, then I can allow life to become. You know what I mean? And I can see it for what it is, and I don't have to have any reactory sense towards it. I can just let it come, because as a wise man once said, could be something good, could be something bad, but I don't know. You know what I mean? We'll see.
Right.
So we just let life happen, and if I can just allow life to happen, I can accept life on its own terms. As I become more. If I try to battle it, if I try to, deal with it in my controlling sense, and trying to want to have, a certain outcome or whatever, look, I'm here to find my soul.
Yeah, that's it.
Your soul turns around and says, "The hell are you looking for?"
And he said again, so take this sentence, for example, like he said, again, the scorn of my cleverness rose up. Right. In other words, the smart side of himself was making fun of himself, right, for doing this stuff.
Okay.
He said, but many will laugh at my foolishness, but no one will laugh at me more than myself. So who cares, right? That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
So I overcame. So why scorn yourself then?
Exactly. Don't take yourself so seriously.
Right. So it's like. But of course, we're on the radio, right? So we have to worry about, are people scorning us for reading this book? But if nobody can laugh at you more than you laugh at yourself, then it doesn't really matter what they think, does it?
Nope.
No.
Uh-oh, we're getting a caller. Hello, 406 area code. You're on the air. Who are we speaking with? Hello.
Hey, it's Jake.
What's up, Jake? What's on your mind,
Going
brother?
on, Jake?
Hey, Jake.
Hey, Stalker. Hey, Dan. How's it going, guys?
We're about to go into hell again. Hopefully this time I won't flood the shack.
Yeah, I said we should read it again just to see if it was all coincidence.
Yeah, it was a coincidence.
But no, this book is super. It's on to see. My take on this whole Red book is he's describing the 7 stages of spiritual alchemy, I believe.
Right. Maybe. Okay. I don't know.
That's my take on it. That's what I'm getting out of it. He's describing the spirit, or the soul, which would be in alchemy like the materia prima, or the primal material. And then these different chapters seem to be going through the 7 stages of spiritual alchemy. So it'd be like calcination, dissolution, separation, conjunction, coagulation,
Right.
That's my take on it.
Well, you could be right. I know a lot of people use Jung to interpret alchemy, like his theory on alchemy and everything, right? But then there's other people that don't agree that Jung interpreted the alchemy correctly. But I don't think alchemy is just one thing. I think it's different things, all different levels of things.
I think it's really up to each one of us to get our own perspective out of alchemy. That's just my take on it, honestly.
Yeah,
I agree.
The draft.
I mean, who's to say what is right for one person? And we're all different.
Yeah, no doubt. That's what he was talking about in like the first part of this, where that each person has to go into themselves and stop comparing themselves to what's in the world and to others and to expectations. And you're not going to find yourself that way.
Don't follow the examples.
Yeah, you're not going to find
Yeah, exactly.
And I seriously believe that's why so many people are depressed and anxious and stuff, because in their mind and even in their hearts, they're constantly comparing themselves to everything. And, comparison causes suffering. That's all I know. I know that,
Definitely.
Yeah. Thanks for your input there, brother. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for the reading. I need to find this book and go buy it if I can.
Well,
I'm digging it.
Yeah, I think you can get the PDF on like online somewhere. It's just the reader's edition.
It's out.
Yeah,
it's out there. Just Google it.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, you can probably buy it. Yeah.
Now, Gordon, I'll tell you guys too.
Thanks for bringing it.
Before you go, Jake, Gordon White has, the Chaos Magician has all his own courses on his website, Rune Soup and stuff, and he has a course on journeying, and he bases journeying, astral travel, dream work, all the stuff into one thing, like on different levels, so to speak. But he bases it on Carl Jung's work. So he makes you study like all this stuff first before you go into doing it,
Yeah.
Pretty cool stuff. Anyways, yeah, thanks for your call, brother. Jake.
Thank you, Jake.
Yeah, thank you.
And you look good in the shirt
night,
too, brother.
Later.
Did y'all see Jake in his t-shirt with the dreadlocks?
Yeah.
All that.
With the dreads, yeah.
The dreads going. All right.
Yeah.
From Montana.
Sick.
How am I supposed to live?
Cruising hard.
Okay, so we're going to read Descent into Hell just to see if we're going to go back into hell again like I did last time when I read this Friday night. Do y'all remember that, right? So
I was sick that night. I was home.
Descent into Hell in the future. Oh, okay. And the following night, the air was filled with many voices, and a loud voice called, "I am falling." And others cried out, confused and excited during this, "Where to? What do you, what do you want? And should I entrust myself to this confusion?" So I shuddered, and it was a dreadful deep. Do you want me to leave myself to chance, to the madness of my own darkness? Whither you fall, and I want to fall with you, whoever you are. So somebody's shouting out, "I'm falling," and he don't know if he wants to go with him. The spirit of the depths opened my eyes, and I caught a glimpse of the inner things, the world of my soul, the many formed and changing. I see a gray rock facing along which I sink into great depths, and I stand in black dirt up to my ankles in a dark cave, and shadows sweep over me. I'm seized by fear, but I know I must go in. I crawl through a narrow crack in the rock and reach an inner cave whose bottom is covered with black water. But beyond this, I catch a glimpse of luminous red stone which I must reach. I wade through the muddy water, and the cave is full of the frightful noise of shrieking voices. And I take the stone. It covers the dark opening in the rock, and I hold the stone in my hand, peering around inquiringly. I do not want to listen to the voices, they keep me away, but I want to know. Here something wants to be uttered, and so I place my ear to the opening, and I hear the flow of underground waters. I see the bloody head of a man on the dark stream. Someone wounded, someone slain floats there, and I take in this image for a long time, shuddering. I see a large black scarab floating past on the dark stream. In the deepest reach of the stream shines a red sun, radiating through the dark water. And there I see a terror seizes me. Small serpents on the dark rock walls, striving toward the depths where the sun shines. 1,000 serpents crowd around, veiling the sun. Deep night falls, and a red stream of blood, thick red blood, springs up, surging for a long time, then ebbing, and I am seized by fear. What did I see? And then there's an image, I guess, that he actually, in the real red book, it's image 3, I guess, but heal the wounds that doubt inflicts on me, my soul, that too is to be overcome, so that I cannot recognize your supreme meaning. How far away everything is, and how I have turned back. My spirit is a spirit of torment. It tears asunder my contemplation. It would dismantle everything and rip it apart. I'm still a victim of my thinking. When can I order my thinking to be quiet, so that my thoughts, those unruly hounds, will crawl to my feet? And how can I ever hope to hear your voice louder, so to see your face clear, when all my thoughts howl? And I am stunned, but I want to be stunned, since I have sworn to you, my soul, to trust you even if you lead me through madness. And how shall I ever walk under your sun if I do not drink the bitter draught of slumber to the lees? Help me so that I do not choke on my own knowledge. The fullness of my knowledge threatens to fall in on me. And my knowledge has 1,000 voices, an army roaring like lions, and the air trembles when they speak, and I am their defenseless sacrifice. Keep it far from me, science, that clever knower, that bad prison master who binds the soul and imprisons it in a lightless cell. But above all, protect me from the serpent of judgment, which only appears to be a healing serpent, yet in your depths is infernal poison and agonizing death. I want to go down, cleansed into your depths with white garments, and not rush in like some thief, seizing whatever I can and fleeing breathlessly. Let me persist in divine astonishment, so that I'm ready to behold your wonders. Let me lay my head on a stone before your door, so that I am prepared to receive your light. When the desert begins to bloom, it brings forth strange plants. You will consider yourself mad, and in a certain sense, you will in fact be mad. And to the extent that the Christianity of this time lacks madness, it lacks divine life. Take note of what the ancients taught us in images. Madness is divine. But because the ancients lived this image concretely in events, it became a deception for us, since we became masters of the reality of the world. It is unquestionable, if you enter into the world of the soul, you are like a madman, and a doctor would consider you to be sick. What I say here can be seen as sickness, but no one can see it as sickness more than I do. This is how I overcame madness. If you do not know what divine madness is, suspend judgment and wait for the fruits. But know that there is a divine madness which is nothing other than the overpowering of the spirit of this time through the spirit of the depths. Speak then of sick delusion when the spirit of the depths can no longer stay down and forces a man to speak in tongues instead of in human speech, and makes him believe that he himself is the spirit of the depths. But also speak of a sick delusion when the spirit of this time does not leave a man and forces him to see only the surface, to deny the spirit of the depths, and to take himself for the spirit of the times. The spirit of the time is ungodly, and the spirit of the depths is ungodly. Only balance is godly. But because I was caught up in the spirit of the time, precisely what happened to me on this night had happened to me, namely that the spirit of the depths erupted with force and swept away the spirit of the time with a powerful wave. But the spirit of the depths had gained this power because I had spoken to my soul during 25 nights in the desert, and I'd given her all my love and submission. But during the 25 days, I gave all my love and submission to things, to men, and to thoughts of this time. And I went into the desert only at night. Thus can you differentiate sick and divine delusion. Whoever does the one and does without the other, you may call sick, since he is out of balance. But who can withstand fear when the divine intoxication and madness comes to him? Love, soul, and God are beautiful and terrible, And the ancients brought over some of the beauty of God into this world. And this world became so beautiful that it appeared to the spirit of the time to be fulfillment and better than the bosom of the Godhead. The frightfulness and cruelty of the world lay under wraps and in the depths of our hearts. And if the spirit of the depths seizes you, you will feel the cruelty and cry out in torment. And the spirit of the depths is pregnant with iron, fire, and death. And you are right to fear the spirit of the depths, as he is full of horror. You see in these days what the spirit of the depths bore. You did not believe it, but you would have known it if you had taken counsel with your fear. Blood shone at me from the red lights of the crystal, and when I picked it up to discover its mystery, there lay the horror uncovered before me. In the depths of what is to come lay murder. The blonde hero lay slain. The black beetle is the death that is necessary for the renewal. And so thereafter a new sun glowed, the sun of the depths, full of riddles, a sun of the night. And as the rising sun of spring quickens the dead earth, so the sun of the depths quickened the dead. And thus began the terrible struggle between light and darkness. And out of that burst the powerful and ever unvanquished source of blood. And this was what was to come, which you now experience in your life. And it is even more than that. And I had this vision on the night of the 12th in December of 1913. Depths and the surface should mix so that the new life can develop. Yet the new life does not develop outside of us, but within us. What happens outside us in these days is the image that the people live in events, to bequeath this image immemorably to far-off times so that they may learn from it for their own way, just as we learned from the images that the ancients had lived before us in events. Excuse me. Life does not come from events, but from us, and everything that happens outside us has already been. Therefore, whoever considers the event from outside always sees only that it already was, and that it is always the same. But whoever looks from inside knows that everything is new. The events that happen are always the same, but the creative depths of man are not always the same. Events signify nothing. They signify only in us. We create the meaning of the events. The meaning is and always was artificial. We make it. Because of this, we seek in ourselves the meaning of events so that the way of what is to come becomes apparent and our life can flow again. And that which you need comes from yourself, namely the meaning of the event. The meaning of the event is not their particular meaning. This meaning exists in learned books. Events have no meaning. The meaning of events is the way of salvation that you create. The meaning of events comes from the possibility of life in this world that you create. It is the mastery of this world and the assertion of your soul in this world. This meaning of events is the supreme meaning, that it is not in events and not in the soul, but is the God standing between events and the soul, the mediator of life, the way, the bridge, and the going across. And that's pretty damn confusing, but I think I get what he's saying there. Like, I mean, if you look in the universe, like everything happens in cycles and it's all just events, and it's kind of like science and everything else. We just give it a definition, but without us and men, without life, there is no definition of any of these events. They're just what they are. So, I would not have to been able to see what was to come if I could not have seen it in myself. Therefore, I take part in that murder. The sun of the depths also shines in me after the murder has been accomplished. The 1,000 serpents that went to devour the sun are also in me. I myself am a murderer and murdered, sacrificer and sacrificed. The upwelling blood streams out of me. You all have a share in the murder. And you, the reborn one, will come to be, and the sun of the depths will rise, and 1,000 serpents will develop from your dead matter and fall on the sun to choke it. And your blood will stream forth. And the peoples demonstrate this at the present time in unforgettable acts that will be written with blood and unforgettable books for eternal memory. But I ask you, when do men fall on their brothers with mighty weapons and bloody acts? They do such if they do not know that their brother is themselves. They themselves are sacrificers, but they mutually do the service of sacrifice. They must all sacrifice each other, since the time has not yet come when man puts the bloody knife into himself in order to sacrifice the one he kills in his brother. But whom do people kill? They kill the noble, the brave, the heroes. They take aim at these and do not know that with these they mean themselves. They should sacrifice the hero in themselves, and because they do not know this, they kill their courageous brother. This time is still not ripe, but through this blood sacrifice, it should ripen. So long as it is possible to murder the brother instead of oneself, the time is not ripe. Frightful things must happen until men grow ripe, but anything else will not ripen humanity. Hence all this that takes place in these days must also be so that the renewal can come, since the source of blood that follows the shrouding of the sun is also the source of the new life. I'm starting to get a hint of some Revelation stuff in here, you know.
The beginning of it was all mystical water symbolism. To going into hell, he was going through the mystical waters that's like triggered by the light. It was all river portal stuff to me. That's
Yeah,
where
well,
my mind
yeah,
went.
that makes sense, right? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. As the fate of the people is represented to you in events, so will it happen in your heart. If the hero in you is slain, then the sun of the depths rises in you, glowing from afar and from a dreadful place, but all the same, everything that up till now seemed to be dead in you will come to life, and will change into poisonous serpents that you will cover the sun, and you will fall into night and confusion. Your blood also will stream from many wounds in this frightful struggle. Your shock and doubt will be great, but from such torment the new life will be born. Birth is blood and torment. Your darkness, which you did not suspect since it was dead, will come to life, and you will feel the crush of total evil and the conflicts of life that still now lie buried in the matter of your body. But the serpents are dreadful evil thoughts and feelings. You thought you knew that abyss. Oh, you clever people. It is another thing to experience it, though. And everything will happen to you. And think of all the frightful and devilish things that men have inflicted on their brothers. That should happen to you in your heart. Suffer it yourself through your own hand, and know that it is your own heinous and devilish hand that inflicts the suffering on you, but not your brother, who wrestles with his own devils. I would like you to see what the murdered hero means. Those nameless men who in our day have murdered a prince are blind prophets who demonstrate in events that then is valid only for the soul. Through the murder of princes, we will learn that the prince is in us. The hero is threatened. Whether this should be seen as a good or bad sign need not concern us. But what is awful today is good in 100 years, and in 200 years is bad again. But we must recognize what is happening. There are nameless ones in you who threaten your prince, the hereditary ruler. But our ruler is the spirit of this time, which rules and leads in us all. It is the general spirit in which we think and act today. He is a frightful power, since he has brought immeasurable good to this world and fascinated men with unbelievable pleasure. But he is bejeweled with the most beautiful heroic virtue and wants to drive men up to the brightest solar heights in everlasting ascent. The hero wants to open up everything he can, but the nameless spirit of the depths evokes everything that man cannot. Incapacity prevents further ascent, and greater heights requires greater virtue. We do not possess it. We must first create it by learning to live with our incapacity. We must give it life, for how else shall it develop into ability? We cannot slay our incapacity and rise above it. But that is precisely what we wanted. Incapacity will overcome us and demand its share of life, and our ability will desert us, and we will believe in the sense of the spirit of the time that it is a loss. Yet it is no loss but a gain, not for outer trappings, however, but for inner capability. The one who learns to live with his incapacity has learned a great deal, and this will lead us to the valuation of the smallest things and to wise limitation, which the greater height demands. If all heroism is erased, we fall back into the misery of humanity and into even worse. But our foundations will be caught up in excitement, since our highest tension, which concerns what lies outside us, will stir them up, and we will fall into the cesspool of our underworld among the rubble of all the centuries in us. The heroic in you is the fact that you are ruled by the thought that this or that is good, that this or that performance is indispensable, this or that cause is objectionable. This or that goal must be attained in headlong striving work. This or that pleasure should be ruthlessly repressed at all cost. Consequently, you sin against incapacity, but incapacity exists. No one should deny it, find fault with it, or shout it down. Holy hell, that was pretty intense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going deeper in the abyss here. Jeez.
So we're killing ourselves, denying ourselves, and at the same time, like, yeah, I think he was talking about like this, that's big time shadow stuff right there, man. When we talked about that one show where like we point our fingers and say, look at that murder or that thief or something. I would never do that. Like, I'm glad I'm not like that. But the truth is that if this is the truth, and what Jung is saying is the truth, that we're really all not separate, and we represent kind of one thing, but we are separate in a way. But if our brothers are still doing these things, then we deem them right or wrong based on our own judgments and creations, but we can't keep telling ourselves that we're not capable of it, because we are.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Edgar Casey said one time, he was like, you want to start blaming people for all kinds of stuff and pointing fingers at them and everything like that. But if you just take for one moment the possibility of you being able to do something completely diabolical and no one was to ever know or find out, what is it that you would do?
That's a good, yeah. Damn, I don't even want to think about that, actually. But, let's see, I got 3 pages and, okay. So we'll do the splitting of the spirit because it's only like 3 pages and then we'll call it a night. So this is the splitting of the spirit. But on the 4th night I cried, to journey to hell means to become hell oneself. It is all frightfully muddled and interwoven. And on this desert path there is not just glowing sand, but also horrible, tangled, invisible beings who live in the desert. I didn't know this. The way is only apparently clear. The desert is only apparently empty, but it's not. It seems inhabited by magical beings who murderously attach themselves to me and demonically change my form. I have evidently taken on a completely monstrous form in which I can no longer recognize myself. It seems to me that I have become a monstrous animal form for which I have exchanged my humanity. This way is surrounded by hellish magic. Invisible nooses have been thrown over me and ensnare me. But the spirit of the depths approached me and said, climb down into your depths, sink. But I was indignant at him and said, how can I sink? I'm unable to do this myself. Then the spirit spoke words to me that appeared ridiculous, and he said, sit yourself down, be calm. But I cried out indignantly, how frightful, it sounds like nonsense. Do you also demand this from me? You overthrew the mighty gods who mean the most to us. My soul, where are you? Have I entrusted myself to a stupid animal? And do I stagger like a drunkard to the grave? Do I stammer stupidities like a lunatic? Is this your way, my soul? The blood boils in me, and I would strangle you if I could seize you. You weave the thickest darknesses, and I am like a madman caught in your net, but I yearn, teach me. But my soul spoke to me, saying, my path is light. Yet I indignantly answered, do you call light what we men call the worst darkness? Do you call day night? To this my soul spoke a word that roused my anger. My light is not of this world. I cried, I know of no other world. And then the soul answered, should it not exist because you know nothing of it? Right. But does our knowledge also not hold good for you? What is going to be if not knowledge? Where is security? Where is solid ground? Where is light? Your darknesses not only darker than night, but bottomless as well. If it's not going to be knowledge, then perhaps it will do without speech and words too. My soul said, no words. And then Jung says, forgive me, perhaps I'm hard of hearing, perhaps I misinterpret you, perhaps I ensnare myself in self-deceit and monkey business, and I'm a rascal grinning at myself in a mirror, a fool in my own madhouse. Perhaps you stumble over my folly. And my soul spoke and said, you delude yourself. You do not deceive me. Your words are lies to you, not me. And then Jung said, but could I wallow in raging nonsense and hatch absurdity and preserve monotony? And my soul spoke and said, who gives you thoughts and words? Do you make them? Are you not my serf, a recipient who lies at my door and picks up my alms? And you dare think what you devise and speak could be nonsense? Don't you know yet that it comes from me and belongs to me? So I cried full of anger, but then my indignation must also come from you. And in me, you are indignant against yourself. My soul then spoke the ambiguous words, this is civil war. Like soul's like a passive aggressive sumbitch, shouldn't he? You know? I was afflicted with pain and rage, and I answered back, how painful, my soul, to hear you use hollow words. I feel sick, comedy and drivel, but I yearn. I can also crawl through mud and at the most despise banality. I can also eat dust. That is part of hell. I do not yield. I am defiant. You can go on devising torment, spider-legged monsters, ridiculous, hideous, frightful, theatrical spectacles, whatever. But come close, I am ready. I'm ready, my soul, you who are a devil, to wrestle with you too. You donned the mask of a god, and I worshipped you. Now you are the mask of a devil, a frightful one, the mask of the banal, of eternal mediocrity. Only one favor, give me a moment to step back and consider. Is this struggle with this mask worthwhile? Was the mask of God even worth worshiping? I cannot do it. The lust for battle burns in my limbs. No, I cannot leave the battlefield defeated. I want to seize you, crush you, monkey buffoon. Woe if the struggle is unequal, my hands grab at air, but your blows are also air, and I perceive trickery. It's kind of like Fight Club in the end, you know?
He's fighting himself.
Yeah. I find myself again on the desert path. It was a desert vision, a vision of the solitary who has wandered down long roads, and there lurk invisible robbers and assassins and shooters of poisoned darts. Suppose the murderous arrow is sticking in my heart. As the first vision had predicted to me, the assassin appeared from the depths and came to me, just as in the fate of the peoples of this time, a nameless one appeared and leveled the murdered weapon at the prince. I felt myself transformed into a rapacious beast. My heart glowered in rage against the high and beloved, against my prince and hero, just as the nameless one of the people, driven by greed for murder, lunged at his dear prince. Because I carried the murder in me, I foresaw it. Because I carried the war in me, I foresaw it. I felt betrayed and lied to by my king. Why did I feel this way? He was not as I had wished him to be. He was other than I expected. He should be the king in my sense, not in his sense. He should be what I called ideal. And my soul appeared to me hollow, tasteless, and meaningless. But in reality, what I thought of her was valid for my ideal. It was a vision of the desert. I struggled with mirror images of myself. It was civil war inside me. I myself was the murderer and the murdered. The deadly arrow was stuck in my heart, and I did not know what it meant. And my thoughts were murder and the fear of death, which spread like poison everywhere in my body. And thus was the fate of the people. The murder of one was the poisonous arrow that flew into the hearts of men and kindled the fiercest war. This murder is the indignation of incapacity against will, a Judas betrayal that one would like someone else to have committed. We are still seeking the goat that should bear our sin. Everything that becomes too old becomes evil. The same is true if your highest learned from the suffering of the crucified God that one can also betray and crucify a God, namely the God of the old year. And if a God ceases being the way of life, he must fall secretly. The God becomes sick if he oversteps the height of the zenith. This is why the spirit of the depths took me when the spirit of this time had led me to the summit. So next is Murder of the Hero. And yeah, I feel sorry for Carl Jung right now, actually. I feel sorry for myself right now. That's pretty trippy. You know? Like, it's like every time he thinks he's got an answer, he don't. You know, it's kind of like golf. You know, every time you think you got the swing down, you can't put it together. You know?
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad he said at the beginning of the last section that the desert seemed like it was 1,000 voices screaming at him, because that was kind of the confusion before Dan explained it to me. Like, it really seemed like it was just a big argument with himself, and then Dan explained it. So like it seemed like him telling the journey kind of for us was the similar journey. Like, he wrote it in a way to like kind of give a similar feeling as you're reading it, or as I was listening to it, at least for me.
Yes, it's like cool. He speaks something, and his soul speaks back, and then at the end of it, he kind of like has his final thoughts about everything. You know?
Yeah.
We got 2 minutes, Joe.
Well, you know, the hell with it. Let's get out of here. Listen. I want to thank both of you guys for coming on. Thanks, Pacho, Don, Eric, Jeremy, everybody in the chat room that hung out. And we'll go back through this red book again in the near future. Like, we'll continue this and then see where it goes from there. Main music was by Chronox. Also, guitar by Bundy. We'll see you guys tomorrow night with Solaris Blue Raven. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Later.
And opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised.